Morning, everyone. Morning is a beautiful day, and we thank God for this Monday. I bring you good news, great things from the Bible. Today is the 15th day in the month of December 2025, and I believe that God has a lot to teach us, this morning. I'm really excited about the passage we're going to be reading today because it's something good. It's a good news. This character, this morning's character, is one of my favorite kings in the book of Chronicles and Second Kings. And we're talking about Hezekiah. Hezekiah. The last time I shared here, I shared about the king Jehoshaphat, and today we're looking at Hezekiah, and they have something in common, and really, really in common. But again, thank you, my dear sister, for leading us in those worship, and they were very, very soothing. Especially when we sing them in our native language, it makes so much sense, thinking. So we are here before God today, and we're here to learn, we're here to fellowship, we're here to worship, and we're here to really give thanks to God in every single area. So today's chapter is chapter 29, chapter 29 and 30. Chapters 29 and 30, that is what we're going to be looking at today. And I think it's good news because it's not there's not so much bad news in it. I really get troubled each time I read those bad news when kings don't do well, when the leaders don't do well. But today we're looking at Hezekiah's revival. Okay, Hezekiah's revival. Hezekiah is that guy who built the tunnel, Hezekiah's tunnel that took water into Jerusalem and blocked water off so that the Assyrians would not have any water outside, but they had water inside. And there's so much I can share with you about Hezekiah because I really love what God did, through him. So today, looking at Second Chronicles chapter 29 and also chapter 30, chapter 29 and 30. And the core of today's message is to show that God restores a people by restoring worship. Okay? God restores a people by restoring worship. Very similar to what Jehoshaphat did also. There's something about just being able to just worship God, devote time to God, commit yourself, to God. Now talking about committing. Our call to action today is for all of us to commit to revival living. Revival, committed to revival, living. As a young child, the word revival was very, very strong at that time, at a particular time, revival. So when you revive something, you assume that thing was maybe at a point dead or not for functional. And I remember my very first revival that I went, they call it Isoji in those days, was Obadari. I remember going to Obadari's revival, open air. I don't think they do those things anymore, but open air revival, where then they just come to an open place, a field, and they will just set up a podium, high podium, and they make announcements, and people actually come together. Crowd, will come together. So those are the days of Isoji and calling people back to God, calling people back to God. So I remember going to Obadari's revival. I remember witnessing another revival by the Celestial Church of Christ, not knowing I was years later, like a decade later, I was going to be part of Celestial Church of Christ and everything. So there's always something about calling people back to God, calling people back, to God. And that is what the story of Hezekiah will reveal to today, calling us back to God. And I pray that you yourself, all of us, me inclusive, we're going to find a place in our lives where we're able to call God back. I'm going to quickly read chapters 29, and I want you to pay attention. Unfortunately, Hezekiah didn't live long. Okay, he didn't live long, but in a short life that he lived, he did a lot. So chapter 29, which kind of corresponded to how many years that he lived. You will see. So Hezekiah was 25 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 29 years. So 50 something years, 54 years or so, he was gone. His mother's name was Abijah, daughter of Zechariah. And it's quite instructive why they put their mother's names. In fact, sometimes they will put their mother's name and where the mother is from. Because sometimes it can also influence the way those kings turn out, those boys, those men, turn out. Sometimes they became king as boys, really. The Bible said in verse 2, which is something I really, really love, and that will correspond to what Jesus Christ was talking to the Pharisees about. Remember, and you'll see what I mean. In verse 2, it says, he did what was right in the eyes of the Lord, just as his father David had done. Of course, if you know this story, you know that David had died many, many years before. But who is your father? And whose son are you? You remember the Pharisees were arguing with Jesus Christ. Oh, we're Abraham's children. How can you call us legitimate? Because you're not Abraham's children. Your father is the devil. Your father is the devil. In fact, he's a liar. He has been lying from beginning. So in the Bible, when they link you to the person you are closest to in terms of character. They link you to the person you are closest to in character, in attitude, in everything. And that's why for the Jews, Jesus Christ linked them to Satan. Say Satan is your father, even though Satan never had any physical children. So in this same way, the same thing that they follow here in Chronicles, they will link the king to the king that he is closest to in character. And what an honor it is for Hezekiah to be linked to King David. I would say he did what was right in the eyes of the Lord, just as his father David had done. Now, in the first month of his first year of his reign, very first month, this guy is like he hits the ground running. In the first month of the first year of his reign, he opened the doors of the temple of the Lord and repaired them. You know why? Because his father shut the door of the temple. Can you imagine when they should? Because his father brought idols and he shut the door. So we don't want this temple worship, whatever. Let's go do something else. Bible said he brought the priest and the Levite. He assembled them in the square on the east side and said, listen to me. This side is usually where they start to sing. If you remember the story of Joshua 2, is the east side. The east side is the one that is facing Mount Olives, okay? Because that's where the sun rises from. So he said to them, listen to me, Levites, consecrate yourself now and consecrate the temple of the Lord, the God of your ancestors. And he told them, remove all the defilements from the sanctuary. Because the sanctuary some idols have been put there. Say, remove all the defilement from the sanctuary. Then he now convicted his ancestors, his parents. He said, our parents were unfair, they were unfaithful. They did evil in the eyes of our God, and they forsook him. They turned their face away from the Lord dwelling place and turned their backs on him. Can you imagine? That is what his parents did. He said they also shut the doors of the portico and put out the lamps. They did not burn incense or present any burnt offering at the sanctuary to the God of Israel. Therefore, the anger of the Lord had fallen on Judah and Jerusalem. He has made them an object of dread and horror and scorn, as you can see with your own eyes. This is why our fathers have fallen by the sword, and why our sons and daughters have and our wives are in captivity. So this guy was self-aware. All right. Self-awareness is very, very important when we're looking at emotional intelligence. The first step is self-awareness. Know yourself. Know your environment. Know the things around you. Because if you don't have self-awareness, then you cannot go to the next step. The next step is basically self-regulation. Okay. Like, for example, let me give you an example. Have you ever spoken to somebody before? And you are telling the person and say, you are shouting. And the person say, I'm not shouting. These are my voices. They are not self-aware. Okay, they are not self-aware that what they are doing is left. So they cannot self-regulate. Okay, so the more you try to correct someone like that, the more they will be exhibiting that same character, even with pride, because you cannot self-regulate if you are not self-aware. You see, in Lean Six Sigma, we will say the same thing too. We said what you cannot measure, you cannot control. What you cannot measure, you cannot control. Initially, when I turned on my lights, it was very bright. You can see, I have another light here. It was very bright. So it was really, I had to now, because it was bright, I can now control it. I can kind of, dim it a little bit and make it. So if you cannot measure, you cannot control it. And I said, now, I intend to make a covenant with the Lord, the God of Israel, so that his fierce anger will turn away from us. My sons, do not, do not be negligent now, for the Lord has chosen you to stand before him and to serve him, to minister before him and to burn incense. Then the Levites set to work, and I love it when instructions are given out that way and everybody just rally around. Of course, this guy is a righteous king. The same way a wicked king gave instructions to close the doors of the temple. And people followed. So that's why everything rises and falls on leadership. So another leader came and said, hey, open up the door, clean everything that people will follow. And the Bible began to mention the names of all the Levite, the Korathites, Kish, the son of the this, and on mentioned all of their names. Bible said that when they had assembled their fellow Levites and consecrated themselves, they went in to purify the temple. You cannot enter the temple if you are not purified yourself. They consecrated themselves. They now went to go and now purify the temple of the Lord as the king had ordered, following the word of the Lord. The priest went into the sanctuary of the Lord. Now, I want you to know something too. I'm sure you already know this. Only Aaron's family can be priests, not anybody. No matter if you're a Levite, no matter the kind of Levite you are, only Aaron's family. So in other words, all the Levitical priesthood were there to help Aaron's family in the sanctuary. So it's only the Aaron's family were the priests. The rest were just Levites who served in the temple. They were like altar boys. All right, they were altar boys. They have the Reverend Father. I'm using the Catholic analogy. You have the Reverend Father, well, you have the altar boys. Bible said that the priest went into the sanctuary of the Lord to purify it. They brought out, to the courtyard of the Lord's temple, everything unclean that had been found in the temple of the Lord. The Levite took them, carried it to the Kidron Valley. The Kidron Valley is that valley between between the Jerusalem, the temple, and of course the Mount of Olives. You will see Kidron Valley. That is where the Jebusites, the original dwellers of that place, that is where they throw their sacrifices. Whenever they sacrifice their bull or whatever animal they are sacrificing, and they throw it there. That's why even human beings, they throw it there. That was the valley that they call the valley of Gehenna, the Kidron Valley, valley of Gehenna. So, and to make sure they sanitize that place, they usually put fire. It's like Ojota. If you're coming from Alausa, Ojota by the right, you see that's where the city dump is. So to make sure they sanitize, they usually put fire. And Jesus Christ use that to typify hell. He said hell is going to be like Gehenna. But in hell, the worms do not die. Because here you have worms and whatever. I said the fire there, the worms will not die, and there's going to be gnashing of teeth and everything. So Jesus Christ used that word picture to also explain, just like in the Kingdom Valley, Gehenna. So hell is going to be that too, but the fire will be burning. So they began the consecration of, on the first day of the first month. That's, the day he gave the order, the first day of month one. And by the 8th day of the month, they reached the portico of the Lord. For 8 more days, they consecrated the temple of the Lord itself, finishing on the 16th day of the first month. So for 2 weeks, they were there working the temple. Now, in verse 18, it says, then they went into King Hezekiah and reported, we have purified the entire temple of the Lord, the altar of burnt offering, with all his utensils, the table for setting out the consecrated bread with all his utensils. We have prepared and consecrated all the articles that that King Ahaz, that's his father, Ahaz removed in his of faithfulness while he was king. They were now in front of the Lord's altar. Early in the next morning, King Hezekiah gathered the city officials together and they went up to the temple of the Lord. They brought 7 bulls, 7 rams, 7 lambs. 7 is very, very important number. That's complete. Everything is complete. 7 goats, 7 rams, 7 bulls, 7 everything, and a sin offering for the kingdom, for the sanctuary, and for Judah. The king commanded the priests, descendants of Aaron, again, remember, the priests, descendants of Aaron, to offer this on the altar of the Lord. Now, something interesting will happen here. Bible says, so they slaughtered the bull, and the priest took the blood and they splashed it against the altar. The next day they slaughtered the ram and splashed the blood against the altar. Then they slaughtered the lamb and splashed the blood against the altar. The goats for the sin offering, were brought before the king and assembled, and they laid their hands on it. Now, I don't know, today is going to be a bit of, deep Bible study. So have you ever heard about the scapegoats? People use that scapegoats. Now, once every year, they'll bring a goat. This goat, they don't kill it. All right. They don't kill these goats, but the priest will pray on these goats, then lay their hands on this particular goat. Then we believe that all the sin of the Israelites have gone into these goats. That's why somebody say, I'll make you a scapegoat. So you're going to suffer for what other people have done. So they lay their hands on that goat. So that becomes the scapegoats. And after they've done the prayer, they set the goat free. All right, they set the goat free. Of course, nobody will want to kill that kind of goat. Nobody kills that kind of goat. The goat just begin to wonder. That is the sin offering. So the goat now wanders away, typifying that their sins have been taken away. So the priest then, they will do that. They now lay their hands on them. Sometime after doing that, they kill the goats too. All right. Sometimes they leave it to roam around. So the priest then slaughtered the goats, not just one, the goats, and presented their blood on the altar for sin offering to atone for all the Israelites, because the king had ordered the burnt offering and the sin offering, for all Israel. All right. Now in verse 25, he said, he stationed the Levites on the temple of the Lord with cymbal. Again, remember those 3 popular instruments they never use: the cymbal, the harp, and the lyre. The harp and the lyre are almost the same thing, but the harp is bigger than the lyre, in the way prescribed by David and God, the king seer, and God, the king seer, and Nathan the prophet. This was commanded by the Lord through his prophet. So let me stop a little bit here again and just give you guys some this thing. Our brothers in the Church of Christ, especially the ones they call Church of Christ non-instrumental, for some reason that I'm not going to share to you because there's no time, they began to preach that the use of instruments was a sin. All right, whatever you don't like shouldn't be a sin. Was a sin. And some of them we claim that, God never commanded the Israelites to use instruments. That it was David that introduced instruments into the worship. And they also tell you that in New Testament they didn't see the Christians use instruments. So whatever that was not specifically prescribed, it is wrong. So you can see the logic they use. Whatever that is not specifically prescribed in the Bible, it is wrong. And that is where they came up with that slogan: where the Bible speak, we speak. Where the Bible is silent, we are silent. Now, interestingly, when we came up as the International Church of Christ in the 60s, 70s, 60s and 70s, we kind of reversed that thing. So why the Church of Christ were using that to cut off anything that they don't like? When the Bible speak, we speak. When the Bible is silent, we're silent. In other words, if it's not specifically mentioned in the Bible, then it's sin. So they said, since it was not directed in the Bible to use instruments, the instrument must be a sin. But that's not true. These guys were so convicted with what they were doing that these men will go into the night in visit Church of Christ that has instruments, and they'll take axe and break down the organ. They'll break down the organ, they'll break down every single thing. So you can see how revolution normally starts. So, but when we came, we now kind of flip that. Our own slogan became, where the Bible speak, we are silent. We don't speak. When the Bible is silent, then we can speak. So in other words, we are saying that when the Bible speak, what should we say? If the Bible said it, we don't have any other thing to say. But when the Bible is silent, we can use our own discretion. So the same people that says the use of instruments is bad, we're having Sunday school. Where did you see Sunday school? Mentioned in the Bible. So we can use the Bible to do anything that we want, good or bad. So I want to just mention it because the Bible said that. So the Levites, the Bible said that they stationed the Levites in the temple of the Lord with cymbal, with harps, and with lyre in the way prescribed by David and Gad, the king's seer, and Nathan the prophet. This was commanded by the Lord through the prophet. So you can see it was God that told them to use those instruments. So as a people, we also need to be very watchful of the things we approve or condemn based on our preference. And that's why the Bible said that do not allow what you consider good to be looked as evil, or what you consider evil, whatever. So we have to be very careful. The Bible can be too twisted in any way, and all over the history, people have twisted the Bible to kind of encourage slavery, to kind of encourage so many things. That was so the Levites stood ready with David's instruments, and the priests with their trumpets. So Hezekiah gave the order to sacrifice the burnt offering on the altar. As the offering began, singing to the Lord began also, accompanied by trumpets and instruments of David, king of Israel. Excuse me, let me take a sip. So the whole assembly bowed in worship. While the musician played and the trumpet sounded, all this continued until the sacrifice of burnt offering was complete. Can you imagine? They were just praising God with instruments, with singing. When the offering were finished, the king and everyone present with him, knelt down and worshiped. King Hezekiah and his officials ordered the Levites to praise the Lord with the words of David and of Asaph the seer. That is the Psalms. They were singing the Psalm. So they sang praises with gladness and bowed down and worshiped. Then Hezekiah said, "You have now dedicated yourself to the Lord. Come and bring sacrifices and thank offering to the temple of the Lord." So the assembly brought sacrifices and thank offering, and all whose hearts were filled brought burnt offering. Now that's a lot of animals to actually kill, a lot of them. Bible said that the number of burnt offering the assembly brought were 70 bulls, 100 rams, 200 male lambs, all of them from burnt offering, just burnt offering alone. The animals consecrated as sacrifice amounted to 600 bulls, 3,000 sheep, and goats. This is overwhelming. The Bible said that the priests, remember, they are just from Aaron's family, not the whole Levite. He said the priests, however, were too few, to skin all the burnt offering. So what did they do? So their relative, the Levite, helped them until the task was finished and until all the priests had been consecrated. For the Levite had been more, conscientious in consecrating themselves than the priests had been. Very, very interesting, right? Even the Levites were very, very, very much more into it. There were burnt offering in the abundance together with the fat offering, fellowship offering, the drink offering that accompanied the burnt offering. So the service of the temple of the Lord was re-established. This is what it took to reestablish. It's like if you leave a car, I don't know if you have seen some of those videos on YouTube or Facebook or somewhere, where people will go and see an old broken down truck, all this 1950s, 1940 Ford or some Cadillac that nobody is using. They will now buy them or bring them out and they begin to refurbish them with all the engines, the piston, every single thing. So this is what it took to reestablish worship again. When worship is allowed to just go down, it takes a long time to establish. So Hezekiah and all the people, they rejoiced at what God had brought about for his people, because it was done so quickly. And that was intense. They did it so quickly because they were really fired up. So God renews worship through revival. Okay, through this isogy, revival, God renews worship. Hezekiah, of course, he became king at that very young age. His father Ahaz has done evil, has shut the door. But no matter what your ancestor did, no matter what our fathers did, we cannot continue in their evil. All right, it takes conscience. We cannot be politicians. Yesterday I was talking to someone where we gathered together as a family with some other families. We're talking about politics. I say today, people don't care about fixing the country. A lot of people don't care about fixing the country. People really don't care if you go deep down. What they care about is my person has to be there. Whether as a governor, whether as whatever, it's not about competence. Oh, my person is there. My village man, my whatever. But they think if my person is there, it will not come to me. People should be thinking about what will benefit everybody else. So his father Ahaz has shut, Ahaz has shut the temple door and promoted idolatry. It doesn't mean that you must do the same thing also. Okay, spiritual neglect anywhere, it defiles a nation. Okay, when we neglect our spiritual life, other kings have followed the ways of their father because, let me continue, the legacy of my father. But even if that legacy is wrong, you cannot be following legacy that is wrong. So 2 Chronicles 29 really opens with some urgency. And today I want us to also have that kind of urgency in our lives. You cannot control what you cannot measure. King Hezekiah has seen what is wrong. That was why he could say, let's go and be fixing it. If you don't even know something is wrong, you cannot fix it. So we have to be self-aware. Very, very important. And he did it the first months of his reign. The very first month, he reopened the temple, the most important place in Israel, the most important place in Israel's existence, have been neglected for many, many years. He did not delay in it. So today I ask you, what is that important place in your life today that you have been neglecting for whatever reason? King Hezekiah understood that renewal, it starts with worship. It starts with you consecrating yourself. So that's why he gathered the Levites. He gathered the priests. Say, guys, this is what we're going to do. He called for consecration. Let us purify ourselves. And of course, he named the real problem he had. You have to name the problem. When we're doing counseling, when we're doing coaching, and we're trying to bring a mind change, we want people to name it. What is the problem? That's the question we ask. Why are we here? What do you want to? Sometimes, people want to change, but they don't want to identify the problem that they have. People want to change, but they don't want to name their sin. People want to move on, but they don't want to touchlight that area of their life. Oh, I want to confess, God, I've sinned in what I've said, whatever. What did you say? Oh, God, we have all sinners. What do you mean we? You, God. So we have to be self-aware. So Israel had abandoned their God. That is the issue. He said, because of this, we are falling prey to all kinds of people, our children, our mothers, our wives, everybody. You have to name the problem that that you have. So this shows clearly what leadership is. Hezekiah did not blame the people alone. He also took responsibility. He said, our fathers, all of my father did it, the king. We are all responsible. So he called the leaders back to their assignment. People have neglected the assignment. What he did was to call them back. As worship began to resume, you can see what happened. Sacrifices now follow. As worship resumed, sacrifices follow. The music came back. Joy began to now overflow in abundance. That is why obedience will not follow. You cannot revive yourself if you don't go through that step. So revival begins when worship is restored. So today I want us to think and reflect. Very, very important. What are the spiritual doors in your life today that needs to be reopened? in your life? What are the spiritual doors? What spiritual doors? Think about it. That needs reopening in your life, that you have shut them. Some spiritual exercise that you used to do, things wherever there, stop. It's enough talking about, what I used to do 2 million years ago, whatever there. Listen, open your own door. Don't wait for anybody. Open your own door. What door have you shut? Is it doors of confession of sin? Is it door of Bible study? Is it door of reconciling yourself with people? Whatever door is it, reopen those doors. Bible says whatever is good, whatever is true, whatever is praiseworthy, whatever, anything, think about them. So you have to be self-aware before you can now self-regulate. Very, very important. So, and where has worship become a routine instead of reverence in your life? Which area of life has worship become, okay, you just do it, but it's not reverent? Your heart is no more there. Then ask yourself again, what steps of obedience is God prompting you to take now? Remember, the first day, the first month. Don't wait till, don't put it as your New Year resolution. It is today. Bible says today is a day of salvation. Today. What do you need to do? So I want you to join me in affirming that I return to true worship. You have to tell yourself that I return to true worship. My life honors God's presence. The life I live, it honors God's. I am self-aware that God is there with me. And revival begins with me. It doesn't begin with any other person. It begins with me. It takes one stroke of fire to ignite a forest. It begins, with me. It is a spark that that ignites. You need to be that, that spark. And by the time you begin to go down, you see that God responded. And that's why God responds when our heart turns back, back to Him. The priests, what they do, they cleanse the temple, they remove what was polluted, what are polluting the worship of people. There are things that made your worship not to be strong. It has polluted. It could be bad attitude. It could be unresolved conflict. It could be unconfessed sin. It could be whatever. It could be anything. And because of those things, it has choked your worship. Your worship is no longer pure. It's no longer, you don't come before God with a pure heart. And you know your guilt. You begin to carry guilt. Today is the day you must purify, yourself. Then Bible said that they removed what polluted their worship. Anything that pollutes your worship. It was physical work with spiritual meaning. They removed everything. So you also need to remove everything that have been polluting your worship. So revival demands removal. You cannot say you want to revive. You have to remove that which has put you in bondage. All compromises must go. Hidden neglect in your life, they must be addressed. What have you been neglecting? Which area of your life? They have to be addressed. Bible said that blessed are the peacemakers, not peacekeepers. A lot of us have been keeping peace. I don't want trouble. I don't want, just keep peace. But you're not addressing the thing, that have been robbing you of your joy. You see, brothers and sisters, when worship resumes, God will begin to respond to us. Okay, when worship resumes in your life, God will respond. In the verse we just read, shows how joyful Jerusalem became. But people are now, we're not giving money, we're not whatever. People are no longer worshiping. When people joy comes, these people will give. People will give. Think about it. Somebody that struggles, I'm just giving an example. Let's say somebody that struggles to come to church because church is far. Quote, church is far. If it's a funeral party, if it's a Christmas party or something, whatever they are doing in one state, they will go. They will go actually. So it is not the distance, it is the heart. The people rejoice because God has prepared their heart. And today I pray that God will prepare our hearts. As we continue and running up, we look at what happened in the next chapter. So Hezekiah sent word to all Israel and Judah, and also wrote a letter to Ephraim, Manasseh. You see what was happening here? Remember, they were a kingdom that were divided. Judah and Benjamin were down south. That is all other kings have concerned themselves with. But this guy saw the revival. He now wrote a letter to everybody, all their in-laws, all their brothers, all Israel, Ephraim, Manasseh. He invited them to come to the temple of the Lord of Jerusalem and to celebrate the Passover to the Lord, God of Israel. Those days, a Soji song, We normally go around the whole street. I don't know where you grew up, but that's how I grew up. We going around the street. People were coming, call people. Listen, when you revive, you want to invite other people to come also. People who are far off, people who have neglected, because revival ignites other revival. So the king and his officials and the whole assembly in Jerusalem, they declared to celebrate the Passover in the second month. Can you imagine? The first month, revival. The second month, we need to do the Passover. They were doing everything back to back. They had not been able to celebrate it. Listen carefully. Before now, they've not been able to celebrate it at the regular time because not enough priests had consecrated themselves and the people had not assembled in Jerusalem. So what is the obstacle? They dealt with the obstacle. So the plan seemed right, both to the king and to the whole assembly. They decided to send a proclamation throughout Israel, all the 12 tribes, from Bathsheba, which is the down south where Abraham camped when he was to Dan, which is the last place, from Bathsheba to Dan, calling the people to come to Jerusalem to celebrate the Passover to the Lord, the God of Israel. It had not been celebrated in large number according to what was written. This was supposed to be a mass exodus. They were all supposed to come together, just like the Jews were coming together. At the king's command, couriers, they sent messengers. Couriers went throughout Israel and Judah with letters from the king and from the officials, which read, people of Israel, return to the Lord, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel. That he may return to you who are left, who have escaped from the hand of the king of Assyria. Do not be like your parents. Remember your parents, your fellow Israelites, who were unfaithful to the Lord, the God of their ancestors, so that he had made them an obstacle of horror, as you can see. So by this time, you can figure out that in northern Israel, the Assyrians have taken them. It's only the remnant that were remaining. So remnant or no remnant, let's call everybody. He said, do not be stiff-necked as your ancestors were. Submit to the Lord. Come to his sanctuary, which he had consecrated forever. Serve the Lord your God, so that his fierce anger will turn away from you. If you return to the Lord, then your fellow Israelites and your children will be shown compassion by their captors and will return to this land. Those people that have been taken away as prisoners, if you return to the Lord, your people that have been taken away, their captors will show them compassion and they will allow them come back. He will not turn his face from you if you return to him. This guy understood God. God will never put away anybody who comes to him. The courier went from town to town in Ephraim, in Manasseh, as far as Zebulun, but people scorned and ridiculed them. So you can know why those 10 tribes never came back. They never came back. Because today, if you scorn God, God also will scorn you. Jesus Christ said, if you deny me, I'm going to deny you before my Father and all the angels. Nevertheless, some from Asher, Manasseh, a few people, and Zebulun, they humbled themselves and went to Jerusalem. Today, I want you to swallow your pride. I want to swallow your pride. Don't follow the crowd. Take decision by yourself. I am going to go back. It doesn't matter. I know I have my gang, my clique, my whatever we are saying, but you have to come back. Be the first to come back, even if you are the only person to come back. Also in Judah, the hand of God was on the people to give them unity of mind, to carry out what the king and the officials had ordered, following the word of the Lord. A very large crowd of people assembled in Jerusalem to celebrate the festival of unleavened bread on the second month. They removed the altars in Jerusalem and cleared away the incense altar and threw them into the Kidron Valley. You have to throw those things away where they belong. They belong where they belong. They slaughtered the Passover lamb on the 14th day of the second month. The priests, the Levites, we are ashamed and consecrated themselves and brought burnt offering to the temple of the Lord. Other people who didn't want to join, shame will catch them. They will come and join you. Then they took up their regular position as prescribed by the law of Moses, the man of God. The priests, they splashed, against the altar, the blood, handed to them by the Levite. Since many in the crowd had not consecrated themselves, the Levite had to kill the Passover lamb for all of those who were not ceremonially clean and could not consecrate, consecrate their lambs to the Lord. Although most of the many people who had come from Ephraim and Manasseh, Issachar, Zabulon had not purified themselves because they were not used to this thing. They were not yet. They ate the Passover contrary to what was written, but Hezekiah prayed for them, saying, "May the Lord, who is good, pardon everyone." Listen, man, God is there to accept every one of us. So who sets his heart on seeking God? The Lord, the God of your ancestors, even if they are not clean, according to the rules of the sanctuary. The Lord heard Hezekiah. He said, God will hear you. No matter where you come, you say, hey, this guy have not done the ceremonial cleaning, and they've come to join us. So God, please forgive them, even though they've not done this. So sometimes, God can jump some loops, right? Because he's a merciful God. The Israelites who were present in Jerusalem celebrated the festival of unleavened bread for 7 days, for a whole week, with great rejoicing, while the Levite and the priest praised the Lord every single day, with a sounding trumpet dedicated to the Lord. Hezekiah spoke encouragingly to all the Levites who showed good understanding of the service of the Lord. For 7 days, they ate their assigned portion and offered fellowship offering and praised the Lord, the God of their ancestors. The whole assembly then, they agreed to celebrate the festival 7 more days. They were like, this is good. Can we do another one? That is what it's all about. Then let's do 7 more days. So far, another 7 days, they celebrated joyfully. Hezekiah, the king of Judah, provided 8,000 bulls and 7,000 sheep and goats for the assembly. Everybody will eat, everybody will sacrifice. And the official provided them with thousands of bulls, 10,000 sheep, gold. Great numbers of priests consecrated themselves. Now we have more priests are now coming to join. That is what happened. This thing ignites. The entire assembly of Judah rejoiced, along with the priests, the Levite, all who had assembled from Israel, including foreigners. Interestingly, including foreigners who had come from Israel. Remember, 5 nations were resettled in Israel when the Assyrian king took them away. 5 nations, even those people, that you can see how they began to now join in. So this was very evangelistic. So including the foreigners who had come from Israel, they also who reside in Judah. Anybody you came to visit, you came to do holiday, come and join us. There was great joy in Jerusalem. For since the days of Solomon, remember the sanctuary, whatever, Solomon, son, the son of King David of Israel, there had been nothing like this in Jerusalem. When everybody came together, when they were just, it could only be traced back to Solomon when they were consecrating the temple. The priests and the Levites stood to bless the people, and God heard them, for their prayers reached heaven, his holy dwelling place. This is so encouraging. So you can see how the revival was expanded. Hezekiah invited everyone, even those who mocked the invitation. We are welcome. Those people who initially didn't want to come, when they see good things happen, they will all come out, because good attracts other people. People want people who are successful. They want to join you. So this verse reveals the heart of God. God is gracious. God is compassionate. When people turn, he receives them. It doesn't matter how far we have gone. Healing follows repentance. Unity follows obedience. So today, I want all of us to reflect in our hearts, even as we start the very first working day of the week. Today, the 15th day of December. We've gone like halfway already into the month. What needs cleansing in your spiritual walk today? What is it that needs cleansing? Cleansing your heart? Is it your mouth? Is it what you hear? Is it things you look at? Is it things you touch? Is it things you do? What needs cleansing? Are you responding quickly when God calls you back? Or do you struggle before you know you are back to where you're coming from? Then who might God will be inviting you to include in this revival? I don't know, for some reason, I feel that all of us here, for some reason, God is reviving us. What about inviting more people? Say 5 o'clock. I know you're not used to waking up early. How can you just come and join? Maybe the blessing can also come. Everything that I am learning, everything that I am gaining, other people might need it also. Invite them, strangers, disciples, everybody. So today I tell myself, my heart turns fully, to God. God meets me with grace. When I talk, God meets me with grace. Restoration follows through my obedience. You have to be obedient to what God is saying. So revival, reminded Israel who they were. Their identity began to come back. They were covenant people of God. They were a worshiping nation. They were people of the pope. So today, what do you have to remind yourself of again? We are disciples. We are Christians. We are full of Jesus Christ. We are people who bring light to the world. Revival restores identity before power now comes. It rebuilds unity before expansion. Listen, if you want to grow and expand, we have to be revived first. True revival does not end with just emotion. Just emotion. No, it reshapes your value. Your values have to change. It renews your commitment. Your commitment must also follow. It realigns people with God's purpose. What is God's purpose in your life? Revival is what's going to realign you. Remember what I might tell you about alignment, the alignment. If this tire is going this way, now it's going this way, it cannot go well. You have to align yourself. So today, how does revival shape your daily decision? Your decision today, revival has to shape it. The things you do, the things you say, the things you look at, the things you hear. What identity is God restoring in you? And how can unity grow through renewed worship? So all these things come from just a spark. So I walk in renewal of my identity. I belong to God's purpose. My life reflects revival power. You need to tell yourself that. It's very, very important. So I believe chapter 29 and chapter 30 is a huge call to all of us. I don't know how you are going to respond to this, but let your response show in what you are going to do. Let your response show in what you're going to do today. For the next few minutes that we have, we are going to go to God in prayer. And if you are moved to pray,